Olá pessoal, não percam esta informação acerca da Instant Gaming. A Instant Gaming é onde tu adquires os melhores jogos, os melhores lançamentos. É uma loja que te dá na hora os códigos para tu adquirires os jogos e tens uma tremenda segurança naquilo que tu recebes. Pessoal, aproveitem os melhores jogos e os melhores descontos só na Instant Gaming. Olá pessoal, tudo bem? Bem-vindos a mais umas notícias do Rgames React. Obrigado por vocês estarem aí desse lado. Já venho com umas notícias recentes, novas sempre, e para mim grandes notícias. Agora falamos novamente, vamos falar de Blades of Fire. Já falamos aqui neste canal e é um jogo que eu vou fazer, assim espero fazer no canal. E temos aqui notícias recentes. E vamos ver o que é que tem a dizer acerca do jogo. Temos aqui a falar Blades of Fire. Temos vindo sempre a mostrar coisas novas, tanto gameplays como notícias novas acerca deste jogo. Tem saído muita coisa, ou quase muita coisa acerca deste jogo. Vocês dá para ver aí no canal que tenho várias coisas a falar do Blades of Fire. Estou muito interessado neste jogo, é verdade, não sei. Provavelmente não será um grande jogo, mas é um jogo que deve ser bastante, como é que eu ia dizer, satisfatório, né? A nível de, é entre o Souls-like, mas vocês já viram, mas irão ver. Vamos ver um trailer, eu sei que tem um trailer, já sei que tem um trailer, e vamos ver esse trailer, mas vamos passar à primeira notícia. Blades of Fire promete ser um sucessor espiritual de Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Só que isto é bom, Castlevania... Os jogos do Castlevania são grandes jogos. Pelo menos eu gosto, não é? Peço desculpa. Não sei se vocês gostam ou não, mas eu gosto bastante. A Mercury Steam, conhecida por Castlevania Lords of Shadow e Metroid Dread, está atualmente a trabalhar no Blades of Fire, não é? E diz que recebeu hoje um novo gameplay graças ao portal Game Informer. Que já teve a oportunidade de jogá-lo. Hoje estamos a falar de dia 2, não é? Quando estou a fazer este vídeo é dia 2. Provavelmente não vai sair no dia 2, vai sair mais tarde estas notícias. Mas que temos aqui, eles têm a oportunidade de jogá-lo. De acordo com o jogo, parece um sucessor espiritual do Castlevania Lords of Shadow. A história de Blades of Fire segue Arana de Lira, o último herói capaz de empunhar o aço. O Atsu, um jovem erudita cujo domínio sobre mitos esquecidos e línguas sagradas pode mudar o curso dos seus destinos. Domina um inovador sistema de forjamento de armas que permite criar variações quase infinitas de armamento e prepara-se para desafiar a própria rainha. Ou seja, ele sai dia 22 de maio, já não falta muito tempo. Hoje é dia, agora que estou a fazer esta notícia, é dia 2 de abril. Não, 2 de maio, peço desculpa. É 2 de maio, ou seja, cada vez está mais próximo, não é? 2 de maio, peço desculpa. Hoje é dia, que estou a fazer esta notícia, é dia 2 de maio, o jogo sai a 22, daqui a 20 dias. Daqui a 20 dias sai o Blades of Fire. Está aí quase a bater, mesmo quase a bater à porta. E vamos ver mais um trailer de Blades of Fire. E pá, o jogo é fixe porque o que dá para perceber do jogo é que nós estamos aqui a forjar as armas e forjamos as armas para ficarmos cada vez mais fortes. E é bastante interessante por causa disso. Vou agora só dimensionar aqui. Só um momento que eu vou dimensionar aqui para vermos já de seguida, ok? Ok, vamos reagir agora ao trailer, ao gameplay, acho que é gameplay de Blades of Fire. Está tudo a postos e bora, vamos a isso. 3, 2, 1, bora!
You're just like a lumberjack in the woods and you're like, somebody needs my help. And then you go like help them.
Temos legendas,
Is that how it usually works? Maybe this is high praise. Maybe this is setting up too much. Is that this kind of, to me, feels a little bit like a Lords of Shadow successor. Hey there, welcome to new gameplay. Today I am Kyle Hilliard here with Game Informer. We're back And of course, I'm joined by Marcus Stewart.
Hey, the replay crew's back together.
That's right. This is the first video I think you and I have done together since the return of Game Informer, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yeah, look at us. Who would have thought?
Who'd have thought? truly, who would have thought? Still a wild thing. But hey, this isn't about Game Informer. This is about Blades of Fire, a game that is coming out May 22nd on PC and consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 specifically. This is the next game from Mercury Steam. Marcus, how do you feel about Mercury Steam? What do you think of those folks?
I'm a pretty big Mercury Steam fan, primarily because, I think they're best known for their licensed work because they made the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series, of which, there's 3 games in there. I like 2 of them quite a bit.
Yes.
And
in particular, I like one of them a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it, but I love the first Lords of Shadow.
Yeah, I'm with you. The first Lord of Shadow is an awesome game. But they also made those the most recent 2D Metroid games. They did that Metroid 2 remake, Samus Returns on 3DS, and then they're most recently did Metroid Dread, which I think is a fantastic game.
I love Metroid Dread. Yeah.
So yeah, Mercury Steam, A-OK in my book.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. After Lords of Shadow, they really, truly became a developer that I was like, whatever you guys are doing, I'm going to at least pay attention.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe this is high praise. Maybe this is setting up too much, especially for someone like me, and I think you, Marcus, who really likes Lords of Shadow, is that this kind of, to me, feels a little bit like a Lords of Shadow successor. This feels like the game that you played Lords of Shadow and you're like, this is really great. I'm very curious to see what these guys do with like an original idea, an original property, and this feels like that more than like Space Lords to me, because it's like fantasy, kind of like I don't know, German sort of inspired kind of like fantasy, I guess you could say, and you're playing as this guy Aaron, and he's this like big, chunky, muscular dude, and he also is kind of soft-spoken.
He's got
like Gabriel.
It's like even just like his hair and everything. Like he's Gabriel coded a little bit.
Yeah,
Gabriel que é o do
Castlevania.
Yeah, like if Gabriel Belmont retired and became a lumberjack, it's this guy.
Yeah, that's kind of, and it just sort of feels like that. I don't know if that was like an intentional thing from them, but like, yeah, I mean, I've skipped past the opening to just kind of get to some gameplay, but like the game opens with like you're just like a lumberjack in the woods, and you're like, somebody needs my help, and then you go like help them,
which is how it usually works.
Yeah, and then you're like there's this abbot, and he dies, and he has this kid with him. And the kid brings you, what is it called? A relic of the Forger's Age, one of the 7 hammers that forged the world. And you kind of pick it up, and you get taken to this like hellscape where you can kind of like build a sword. And they're like, "Hey, you're a guy. You're this guy now." And you just wake up the next morning, and you're like, "Hey, kid, we gotta go kill the queen." And that's like the setup of the game. You're just like this dude in the woods that decided to help this abbot in trouble. And then you have this mythic anvil, and you're like, well, we got to go kill the queen now. And it's just, I don't know, it worked for me. I liked it.
Yeah, I can't, we played a press build, so I don't know if there's more setup or context than that in the full game. But yeah, it's just like, I guess this guy's just a really good blacksmith, and he's just got god blacksmithing powers, and he just is forging his own weapons of destiny to go murk this queen. Because he does not like the queen.
At this point, I don't really know why he needs to kill the queen, but that's okay. I don't know. There's just something about... I trust him.
I mean, what else would you do if you got a magic hammer that you could forge in a weird hellscape?
Exactly. Yeah. So the other thing, that's the setup, which is engaging. But the other thing we need to talk about, Marcus, is the combat. Is like, if you're watching the footage, you might just kind of be like, yeah, you hit a button and you swing your sword. Looks pretty familiar. But the sort of the unique thing here is each of the 4 face buttons attacks from a different direction. So if I was playing on an Xbox controller, the B button was like a right swing, the X button is a left swing, the Y button is like a downward thrust from above, and then the A button is kind of like a lower stab. And you'll notice as I approach enemies, you may have just seen that footage, like when you lock onto them, they kind of light up. And like there was one guy who was like his arms were green, but his lower body and upper body were red, which means it's like, okay, I need to come in from the left or the right. I can't come above or below. And it's weird. It's honestly.
Yeah, it's very technical. Like, it almost reminds me, and maybe I'm mistaken because it's been a long time since I played this game, but I want to say For Honor has a similar sort of like deliberate sort of like almost like tactical combat system where it's a little bit more about like what is your stance versus your opponent's stance, and what, like, I need to swing a certain way to hit their body in a certain way, like maybe they're not guarding their right, so I need to swing from the right. It's like that, like you said. It's not, and I was gonna say, like, I know we talked about Lords of Shadow, but I would almost kind of like, I would hesitate to maybe compare it to the game any further than just sort of like it's a third-person action game, because the combat is very different. Almost. Yeah,
like tone and like maybe setting, we'll see. But yes, I'm with you, Mark. It might be too strong a comparison, you know.
Yeah, because Lord of Shadow is a lot more just like a little faster pace, a little bit more sort of like, I don't want to say mindless hack and slash, but compared to this, yes, where this is a lot more like, you just said, reading your opponents. You know, it's like there's 4 attack buttons, so you're basically trying to break your opponent's guard, and then even your weapons have like different stances. Where like the sword, you can toggle between, you can do stabbing attacks or you can do slash attacks, and that makes a difference based on the enemy's armor type or just like whatever they're sort of like wielding. But it's like stabbing this guy might not be as good if as opposed to slashing a guy, which I think is really interesting.
And by the way, I'm not going to beat this troll right now. We will get back to him, I promise. But this is like a first sort of skill check with that troll. So we'll get back to him, I promise. But yeah, very very deliberate combat. Like Aaron, depending on the weapon he has, I kind of have a shorter, faster sword there, so I'm swinging pretty quickly. But like, you can also have like hammers that you swing really slowly. You take these big, wild swings and stuff like that,
and a lot of committing to animations too. As far as I can tell, you cannot cancel out. So if you swing and someone's coming at you faster, then you're just going to eat it, pretty much. So a lot of commitment to your attacks.
Yeah, and there's definitely. I mean, it's a 2025 action game. There is From inspiration. There's plenty of From inspiration.
Yeah, and by that you mean Souls. Like from
Souls,
software.
From software. Sorry, I mean, I'm not ready to call this a Souls-like or anything, but like every combat scenario is a specific encounter that you got to think through, right? In Souls games, you can't really
Souls-like,
sprint past everybody, but it takes a long time to get to a point when you're just sort of like taking out a bunch of enemies.
Yeah, and it's got the Soul-style checkpointing of you're finding these anvils that you have to activate that serve as more or less bonfires, in the way that like if you rest at them, it respawns all the enemies, and every time you die, you go back. But that's about the extent of it. Like, you're not losing experience points or anything like that and having to go collect anything when you die. It's just that every time you save, everybody comes back to life, pretty much.
Yeah, and you also have what else do we call it but an Estus flask, right? You have health items that refresh when you rest.
Yeah.
You know? Which is like a system that so many games have borrowed, and please borrow away. I don't know, something about that system is so smart because it makes you manage your health without having to worry about inventory in a weird way. I just love it. Even in Claire Expedition, or Claire Obscura Expedition 33, they borrowed that system, and I love it. It's like, it encourages me to actually use health items without having to worry about it too much. Yeah, and then the other big part of the game, which maybe I'll cut in a little bit here, is you spend a lot of time forging weapons, which I will admit in this 3-hour demo I didn't have the best handle on exactly how it works, so I don't want to like try to over-explain it accidentally. But you have your weapons degrade pretty quickly.
Yeah,
you can repair them, You can sort of like sharpen them mid-fight, almost kind of like Monster Hunter style.
Yeah.
And then the handle, the hilt can break, so you have to go make a new hilt. And like when you do that, there's actually like a mini game where you're sort of pounding out metal, trying to like flatten the sword to the best of your ability. And it's interesting, and it's different. But I did find that when I got stuck on a boss like this, where I was struggling quite a bit, I was going through a lot of weapons.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how you felt about the forge thing, because it gets pretty dense pretty quickly, because when you're forging a weapon from scratch, you're choosing the style of blade in terms of the shape of it, and it all has different stats tied to it. Of like, oh, maybe this hits harder, but it's slower, so you're kind of making decisions about like your play style, but you're like the blade, the hilts, the type of metal, like they all feed into like just different overall stats. And I know you're not a big loot guy, so I was like,
yeah,
I didn't know if you would like how you felt about getting into all that, because I know you're generally someone that's like, just give me a good weapon and I'll just go in there. I don't want to have to deal with numbers, because it is a lot of number crunching for the weapon forging.
I mean, this I think you will at least be able to find weapons you like and just kind of keep rebuilding them. You know what I mean?
Sure, just repair them.
Seems that way.
Improve them too.
Yeah. Oh, which by the way, one thing we did, you mentioned that you're not losing experience when you die in the same way you do in a Souls game. You do lose your weapon.
Yes.
So you actually do. You have to like run back and get your weapon.
Yeah, and it's
like,
the weapon you were using when you died. So whatever you had currently equipped, not because you usually have 2 weapons at a time, but whatever you were actively using is the one that gets dropped.
Okay.
I also want to point out here, you'll see he kind of gets stunned here, and depending on you can hold down each of the attack buttons to do a stronger attack, and in that instance where that boss gets like stunned, you can actually choose like which like limb you want to sever in that moment. Like you can choose to get its right arm off, which I did last time, or you can choose to take off its left arm, which I did this time.
Ou seja, também é um jogo de paciência, né?
It does change its attack pattern.
Já percebi que é um jogo de paciência.
Right, so it can get really specific. And then one of the reasons I was successful, spoiler alert, I am successful in this attempt, is that I did something I didn't realize you could do when it got stunned. I just didn't assume that it would work that way. I thought I could only cut off its limbs. But if you hold down the Y button, you can in fact cut off its head.
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not cut off his head.
I didn't know you could do that. It just, for some reason, I just didn't assume you could do that.
Oh, he's still going.
Yeah, and so this like makes it hard in a different way, because then he's just sort of flailing wildly, right? Which is a different challenge, right? Like you can get rid of its right arm, or you can get rid of its club, or you can get rid of its head. It's pretty cool. Yeah, like I was kind of surprised by that.
It's giving me PTSD from the Sekiro Great Ape fight.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
I think we should.
Yeah, that was.
Oh no, I was gonna mention we keep seeing him, the little guy that's hanging out with you, him, our buddy.
That's Adso. Yeah, which another point of reference for this game, it is contemporary God of War to me. It feels a little bit like, you know, the recent God of War in an Adso kind of
God of War,
Atreus in a way, where he's like kind of with you and he can help you and he gives you lots of details and things like that. But the one thing I like, one thing you can do with him is like if you're finding him annoying, you can just send him away. Like there's a button, it's like right on the D-pad, and he'll just like go somewhere safe and not talk to you.
Yeah, sometimes you have to. Yeah, sometimes you have to do it because like he's not a fighter, he's just a scholar, and his whole role is like, hey, you know, the more enemies you fight, the more I can like get a look at them and I can draw them, and it basically like creates like I think like a lore entry or something, but he'll always be shouting out like, hey, I drew this guy, and then Aaron's like, great. But then but sometimes he'll find certain artifacts that he knows a lot about, and he'll be like, hey, you need to send me back home so I can like study this, otherwise you won't like unlock, I guess, like this entry or maybe an item. So you do have to send him away sometimes and then call him back, and then he'll be like, okay, I have something to say about this, I've had time to read up on it.
Yeah, it's cool. I like him. I also just generally like the look of this game. I think it looks cool, and like like in the same way that Lords of Shadow is like these big chunky sort of Unreal, characters with lots of like, this sounds negative when I say over-designed. I don't mean to say like that negatively, but they just have a lot of stuff on them, right?
They've got a almost kind of like, I guess now nostalgic at this point, sort of like Xbox 360, PS3, third-person action game kind of vibe, with, like I said, the bulky proportions and stuff, where it's like, oh, you don't really see games look like this anymore, and I'm kind of digging it because of, it feels like it's been a while, I guess. I don't know.
So I like it. Yeah, to sort of wrap up here, a reminder that this game is coming out May 22nd, PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S, X. I'm excited for this. I really like Mercury Steam a lot. I'm rooting for them. I like I spent, I don't know, hour and a half with this game, and like, it is a little strange to get into a new style of action game, if that makes sense. Like, I've gotten so accustomed to using the shoulder buttons for swords and the circle button to roll away and stuff like that. It's odd to have 4 attacks on the face buttons, and you can dodge with the left bumper. But I'm intrigued by it. How do you feel about it, Marcus? You spent some time with it too.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much the same as you. Of like, it's cool to see something different. I'm still wrapping my head around the controls for the same reasons of you. It's like just getting so used to what's sort of become the standard in most action games. But like I said, I love Mercury Steam. I will absolutely check out anything that they do. So I'm gonna definitely spend some more time with this. And I think this game has like, there's potential here. It's one, like, from what I played so far, you can't help but go like, there's something here. I kind of want to see where this goes.
Yeah, like I need to spend more time with the forging. I don't like, I want to understand that better, and there's nuance to the combat that I haven't grasped yet, but I want to,
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, Blades of Fire. Yeah, thanks for joining me, Marcus. I appreciate you taking a look with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Ok, vou dar a minha opinião daquilo que eu vi. A minha opinião é o seguinte: aquilo que eu vi, eu gostei, não é? Acho que a nível gráfico parece um jogo mais de PlayStation 3 ou de Xbox 360, como eles estavam a mencionar. Mas a nível de... a parte boa do jogo é que nós atacamos conforme as fragilidades do adversário. Temos que estudar que armas é que vamos utilizar, com quem vamos utilizar as armas, como vamos utilizar essas armas. Temos que estudar o adversário. Temos que ter paciência. Há aqueles jogos das asmas, tens que proteger, depois ter os timings de... É como Souls-like, os timings de ataque e os timings de defesa, não é? Vamos ver o que é que vai dar. Eles estiveram a jogar 3 horas, acho que, penso 3 horas ou 1h30. Eu sei que eles durante 1h30 estiveram ali a jogar, pelo menos, né? E gostaram do que estavam a jogar. Agora há incógnitas a nível da narrativa, acho que não tem grande narrativa, pelo que eu já percebi. Mas a nível de divertimento, de ação, de ser um pouco diferente, visto que o que nos interessa neste jogo é forjar armas de acordo com os adversários para passá-los, né? Os bosses neste caso, e andamos com o miúdo, né? Neste caso o miúdo deve ser algo importante, esse miúdo, como se fosse o Atreus, né? Basicamente para nos ajudar, ou às vezes até para nos atrapalhar, depende, né? Mas gostei do que vi. Não acho um grande jogo, nunca achei um grande jogo, mas é um jogo bom, é um jogo que nos vai divertir, é um jogo que nos vai passar um bom tempo, vai nos matar um bocado a cabeça, como é que passamos isto ou aquele adversário, com que arma, né? Temos que andar a forjar, a apanhar muitos materiais de certeza para forjar as armas, e vamos, dia 22 de maio, se Deus quiser, vamos ver como é que é o jogo, vamos ver se fazemos série ou não do jogo. Eu quero fazer série do Doom Dark Age aqui para o canal, quero muito fazer essa série. Este Blades of Fire logo se vê, vamos fazer o vídeo, mas não sei logo se vê se vamos fazer série ou não. Depende também de vocês. Deixem esse like, já agora deixem esse like, subscrevam o canal se não forem subscritos. Há muita gente que vê o canal e não subscreve o canal. Não custa nada, ajuda bastante o canal. E muito obrigado. Só estas notícias de Blades of Fire. Já deu para ver e reagirmos um bocadinho aqui ao trailer e ver o que é que eles disseram das gameplays, ao trailer, à gameplay. E pronto, fica aqui a notícia de Blades of Fire. Muito obrigado mesmo de coração e fui!